this land that we call Bharat, though at some points we have been over 600 political entities, both within the country and by the people outside the country, we've always been referred to as one nation. Though it was so many bits and pieces divided between kings, what is it that made us feel like one nation? What is it that people from outside saw that they called us as one nation? People believe that this word or this name, Bharat, came because this land was ruled by King Bharata. But the case is, he got the name from the nation, not the other way around. As even today, there are thousands of people named… there are thousands of Bharatis and Bharat Kumars in the country. Similarly, he was one more Bharata of the day. A great emperor, greatness not just because of his conquests, at his full flow, before he got old, he decided to coronate the next king. He had 9 sons, but he saw a young boy who was only 22 years of age, whose name was Bhumanyu, who was the son of sage Bharatwaj. This boy grew up in the forest, never been exposed to the world outside. First time when he came, King Bharata's eyes fell upon him and he said, "This boy should be the king of this empire, not any of my sons." It was the first act of democracy 6,000 years ago. But of course later on, since then we've been having Dhritarashtra syndrome, that's a different thing. At any cost, blood versus brain. So this land, Bharat, why it is significant? Why is it that it is important why is it that people, beyond the cost of their life, they try to protect this? What is the significance of this? The word Bharata comes from 3 aspects. Bha means bhava, Ra means raga, Tha means thala. Bhava essentially means sensation, or we can translate it as experience, because all our experience of life right now is through the sensory perception. So, every experience of life is actually a sensation. Well, it may not be sensational for a lot of people, but it is a sensation. What we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste is all a certain type of sensation. Sensations of pleasantness, sensations of unpleasantness determine the nature and the quality of one's life. If you have pleasant sensations, you may call this peace, happiness, joy, bliss, ecstasy. If your sensations are unpleasant, you may call this stress, tension, anxiety, misery, agony, whatever we want to call it. Many names, but essentially this is a contest within ourselves of pleasantness and unpleasantness. In the yogic culture, if the body becomes pleasant, we call this health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call this peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call this joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call this love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it compassion. If your very life energies become pleasant, we call this blissfulness. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it ecstasy. If our surroundings become pleasant, we call it success. Of course, they call it goal. So, humanity is continuously in pursuit of this pleasantness. The man who goes to the bar and the man who goes to the temple, their fundamental pursuit is same. The question is who is successful. The question is how enduring is it. But essentially, every human being is only seeing how to make their experience of life pleasant. Somebody thinks money will do it, somebody thinks education will do it, somebody thinks love will do it. Different people have different ideas, some people believe it'll happen only in heaven. But essentially, everybody is in pursuit of this. Now, so the bhava refers to the sensation or the experience, how to take charge of this. Because human experience is completely an internalized process, in the sense, this moment, you think I'm standing here, but the reality of the experience is light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the whole story. So you see me within you, you hear me within you, you have seen everything that you have ever seen only within you, you have ever experienced everything that you ever experienced only within you. You know the existence only the way it is happening within you. You're incapable of knowing anything else, actually. Right now, if somebody next to you touches your hand, you think you're experiencing their hand, but the fact is, you're only experiencing the sensations in your hand. You cannot experience the other hand. You can experience this sensation with the support of this other hand, or even without the support of this other hand. This is something that is well established right now. Just with imagination, you can make sensations happen in your system. So, bhava or bhava is an important part because this is entirely in your hands. You can create super pleasant sensations or super unpleasant sensations. This is entirely your doing. Ra means raga. This you have nothing to do with because this is the nature of the existence. This is a changeless reality, which is the fundamental of who we are and everything is. This is the fundamental law of creation. This is the raga, the tune of life. This we cannot do anything about it, but we can know it only through ourselves. This is what in the yogic culture is called swadharma, the loss of the self. That what is the nature of your inner existence? Only by exploring this, you know the raga. If you know the raga, then you set the thala or the rhythm. If you get the rhythm right, you ride this life as a wonderful experience. If you don't get the rhythm right, you will be crushed by the same life. All of us are living in the same world. Some people's experience of life is absolutely fantastic. Some people's experience of life, they feel crushed by the simple process of life. This is just a question of, have you gotten the rhythm right or not? To get the thala right, you must be able to listen to the raga. If you don't hear the inner raga, then thala will be all set by the society. It works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. This is what you're seeing today. As a generation of people, we know more comforts and convenience than any generation ever on this planet. We are the most comfortable generation ever in the history of humanity. Do you agree with me? Hello? Never before another generation of people have ever known these type of comforts and conveniences as all of us are enjoying. What royalty could not have, today ordinary citizens have. Most of you are driving 100, 200 horses worth of chariots, isn't it? But are we any more joyful? Because this will not change our experience of life. If we fix the external, it will only change the outside realities, it will bring comfort and convenience, it will never change the inner experience. So, the bhava and the thala which is in our hands and the raga with which we have nothing to do, but without knowing the raga, you can't set the thala properly. Only if you know the raga, you can set the thala, otherwise your thala is accidentally sometimes working, sometimes not working. If you look at the human experience on this planet, the more affluent the societies get, you will see the longer the faces are getting, unfortunately, at a great expense. At a tremendous expense to every other creature on the planet, people are miserable. At least if you're ecstatic, you have maybe a right to burn the planet. Miserable people have no right to burn the planet, isn't it? If you think it's a party and you're burning up the planet, that is one thing. But miserable people are burning up the planet, they think by burning more they'll get better. It's not happening because it'll never happen that way. So this nation was formed on this fundamental aspect. This culture was cultured scientifically to see that one takes charge of one's bhava and listens to the raga and sets the right thala so that life happens in its fullest possible way for the individual human being. If you look at the people that this land worships, first of all, we must understand, these were not people that we saw them descending from heaven. These were people who walked the geography of this land. Whether you take Rama, Krishna, Shiva, whoever, they're all people who walk this land. Normal births, went through the entire process of life, trials and tribulations. And if you look at their life, whatever they took up as a big mission in their life, none of them really succeeded in what they were doing. You take Rama, for example, he's one of the biggest deities in the country. If you take Shiva, his wife immolates herself and he becomes so miserable at one point and then he comes out of it, whatever. Then Rama, his wife gets kidnapped, terrible battle. Then he comes back, recovers the wife. For political reasons he has to give her up. Then unknowingly he fights a battle with his own children. You can't call this a successful life. But the reason why we worship them, you look at Krishna, his entire life's mission was to marry the political and the spiritual process in the country. He thought he will bring enduring prosperity and well-being and peace on this land. Instead of that, it ended up in a disastrous war, and his own clan fought themselves to death. But still we worship them because we never value what happens in terms of what we do in the world, because what happens in the world depends on various circumstances. Who you are is not determined by what you could do and could not do. Who you are is determined by how you conducted your life. With all this terrible drama happening in their lives, they stayed above that. They remained free of that. This is the quality that we are worshipping because the highest value in this nation has always been freedom or liberation, because the ultimate goal of all people born in this land is supposed to be mukti, not heaven, not God. God is just one more tool, one more stepping stone. The only reason you're supposed to live here, it doesn't matter, you get married, you have children, you do business, you do politics, all these things you do only as another means for your mukti. This is how the culture has evolved. So, though we are different kinds of people, we speak differently, we look different, we eat different, everything is different about us, still we have been one nation because we have been a land of seekers, and that's been unique. Everywhere else, nations are formed on the sameness of race, religion, language, ethnicity and these kind of things. If you drive 50 kilometers in this country, people look different, they dress different, they eat different, they speak different. Everything is different about them. Anybody who comes from outside the country cannot imagine what is this nation. It's a kaleidoscope of people. There is nothing common about anybody. Tell me what's common about the Tamil people and the Gujarati people. We don't like your food, but we have no problems with you. So everything is different. In the same family, in the same room, 5 people will be worshipping 5 different gods, and there's no issue. There isn't another land like this. If you want a classic example of inclusiveness, this is it, because Tell me in which place on the planet people can sit in the same room at the same time and worship 5 different gods. It's not possible. Because in the very nature of belief system is, what I believe is right, what you may believe must be wrong. But because we are a land of seekers, there's never been a concretized belief system, there has never been a concretized idea of God. In many ways, this is the only godless country on the planet because we understood the technologies of God-making. How… Yes. Now I want you to understand, this is an entire science and technology by itself. What you're referring to, because the word God is an imported word, we only call them murtis or deities, or we call them yantras. The word yantra literally translates as a machine. Or in other words, we called our gods as machines. Even today, we have a Dhyanalinga temple in the yoga center. When I'm speaking, if I refer to the Dhyanalinga as a tool, some people will feel offended. Sadhguru, don't call Dhyanalinga a tool, it's more than our life. I say, it's okay, if it's more than your life, you do one thing. You come to the yoga center, I'll give you a plumbing job. No spanner, no winch, no any tools. Use your hands, fingers, teeth, whatever you want. In 3 days' time, when half of them are gone, you come to me, I'll give you a spanner. Will you worship the spanner or not? You sure will. Because human beings are who they are on this planet only because of our ability to use the tools. Otherwise, I'm telling you, a colony of ants would supersede the human race. Dogs can rule over the human beings. Today we are trying to protect the tigers. A tiger needs protection. We always thought tiger means it is the ultimate everything. But a tiger needs protection, an elephant needs protection only because human beings are able to use tools, isn't it? So as there are physical tools, there are subjective tools. Many variety of tools we created in this land. How to use this tool for specific purposes was clearly described. Unfortunately, in this many years of occupation and being ruled by others, these things have gotten little distorted and dislocated. Otherwise, this is an entire science by itself. This can be accessed to make life into a phenomenal process. All tools that we create is only an extension of faculties that we already have. Because we can speak, we have a microphone. You were talking about telephones. Because we can speak, there is a telephone. Because we can see, there is a microscope, there is a telescope. Everything that we can do, there is an extension of that. This is what all the instruments and machines are. Because we are mobile, we came up with a bicycle. If we were made like trees, we wouldn't bother about a bicycle for sure. So everything that we have created as machines are only extension of our faculties. Similarly, as we can see, not only through our eyes, we can see through our mind's eye. How far you can see can be enhanced by certain tools. What we can do subjectively can be greatly enhanced by certain tools. So this is how we created the deities or yantras. But unfortunately, somewhere along the way, this science kind of became little diluted, though it is still very much alive in the country. Largely it has become little out of shape. Many examples are there, but unless those examples have found credence in the Western culture, it is not really credible. So, we will take Ramanujam as an example. You know Ramanujam was a great mathematician from Tamil Nadu. Not much educational background behind him, but he poured out mathematics. A little over a century, the formulas that he wrote, books and books of formulas that he simply poured out. Today they are saying these formulas mathematically describe the black holes. You must understand, in 1910 or 1908 when he wrote this, there was no concept of black hole in the scientific community. It's a much later happening. But he made mathematical backbone for the black holes, about which there was no concept. There was no such idea anywhere in the world, but he created the mathematical background. When they asked him how, he said, "My Devi, my goddess, gives me all this." Even sitting on his deathbed, he poured out. I think still only about 60–70% of his mathematics has been kind of understood. The rest is yet to be understood. They know there is something to it, but nobody is there to decipher exactly what he has written. So, people can find access, open up windows to the universe. This is what the deities were. Never in India, the temples were a place of worship. It is only a recent happening. I think in northern India it's mostly lost. In south, even today, if you go to the temple, people will tell you, there is no need to worship, there is no need to give an application or an appeal to God, but you must sit there for some time, because these were created like powerful energy spaces. This is all about enhancing the human being. This is not about heaven, this is not about God, this is about letting the human being overflow with his fullest potential. Because the nature of the universe, the nature of life here is such, for every other creature, nature has drawn two lines within which they have to live and go. For the human being, there is only a bottom line, there is no top line. If you want to explore limitlessly, all shackles have to be removed. Freedom is the only ultimate value. This is why mukti was the only value. Not God, not heaven, not this, not that. Mukti or liberation was the highest value always. How you get there is up to you. If you want to use forms, you can do it. Without forms, you can do it. You don't believe in anything, that's also fine. It doesn't matter how. You must see there are yogis who wake up in the morning and who will take God's name with great devotion. There are yogis who will wake up in the morning and abuse every god on the planet and still they are also on the spiritual path. Why I'm saying this is because no particular way was described. All that we knew is, if you… whichever dimension of who you are, if you pursue it unwavering, with tremendous intensity, you will break through from the limitations in which you are. This is why 1,000,000 forms of spiritual process happen. Unfortunately, today, these generations are… very few people are even aware that such things exist. When Mark Twain visited India, and he was here for a little over 3 months, he had a good guide who took him to the right places. When he was leaving, he said, anything that can ever be done, either by man or God, has been done in this land. Because in terms of exploring human mechanism, in terms of understanding the inner mechanics of how a human being is made and what are the possibilities within the human being, no one else anywhere has ever explored with the profoundness and the variety in which it has been done. This is the future of the world in many ways, because as human intellect sparks, today, as a generation of people, we are in a place where more people can think for themselves than ever before. Never before in the history of humanity, so many people could think for themselves. Whether they're thinking straight or not is another thing, but they're beginning to think. When people's intellect sparks, then solutions in heaven won't work. Solutions have to be scientific, have to fit into the logical framework of who we are, otherwise it will not work. So, this dimension of a completely a-religious, spiritual dimension which made this land into a land of seekers, never land of believers, because what we believe is a cultured product. In the sense, depending upon which society we are born in, accordingly we believe something because that belief was overwhelmingly there, influencing us on all levels. So what we believe is purely a cultural thing. But the fact of the matter is, today even modern scientists, all the top scientists in the world are attempting, are openly admitting that it is not only that we do not know, this is unknowable. What they're saying is unknowable is not the nature of the existence. They're talking about just the physical existence. They're saying the physical existence, after enormous research or dissection even into the particles of the atom, it is unknowable. Physical dimension is less than 2% even in a single atom. In the universe, it's less than 1%. So this 1%, we are admitting that it is unknowable, not the remaining 99% that we have not even touched. So this culture explored that dimension, knowing that a human being can know whatever he wishes to know, only from within, because everything you know, the way it happens within you, you have no capability to know anything outside of you. Right now, you can see what's around you with your eyes. You can't roll your eyeballs and scan yourself. You can hear this, so much activity in the body, you cannot hear this. If an ant crawls upon this hand, you can feel it. So much blood flowing, you cannot feel it. Because in the very nature of things, sense organs are outward bound. And everything that happens in our experience happens within us. This is the fundamental predicament that this culture solved, how to turn inward, how to take charge of the seat of your experience, so that your experience on this planet is not determined by what's happening around you, but by you, because what's happening within you is the only thing that you can experience. You cannot experience what's happening outside of you. So if you take charge of what's happening within you, you will determine the quality and the nature of your experience. But what you can do and cannot do in the world is a question of time. Which time are we? Which time of history are we? Accordingly we will do certain things. What we do today in the world is not entirely ours, it is a consequence of time. But how we experience this life is entirely ours. But right now, in pursuit of happiness, we are ripping the planet apart. I want you to understand, all these ecological disasters we are talking about are not happening for any other reason. It's human pursuit of happiness. After ripping off half the planet, we are still not happy. If we rip it entirely also, we will not be, because that is not how it happens. Human experience happens from within. What happens from within you, if you do not take charge of the seat of your experience, it cannot happen the way you want it. But we have been going around with belief systems. You know, I was speaking to a group of people in Nashville, Tennessee. Tennessee is a special kind of place. For those of you who do not know, it's a very staunchly religious area, but our center is there. So I was speaking to a group of people and I was telling them a joke. In the joke, I referred to God as Him. Immediately a few ladies stood up and said, "Do you believe God is a man?" Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know what I've gotten into. I said, "I was only telling you a joke." They said, "No, no, you said Him. So do you believe God is a man?" Now in that country, there is a debate whether God is a man or a woman. I think they're going to settle it in this election. There are, you heard of Idi Amin, the Uganda man. Idi Amin declared God is black. I agree with him. Because if a white man can have a white God, why can't a black man have a black God? This is also a big debate in southern churches in America. Is God white or black? Last two elections they tried to settle it, it didn't settle. This is going on. These people do not know because, God did not land in their lands. Only sons and messengers went there. In India, we know God is brown. Because God came here Himself 9 times, not once, 9 avatars, 9 times He landed here Himself. So Indians are very proud of this. So I keep reminding them, God came here 9 times Himself, Because he wouldn't trust anybody with Indians. He wanted to do the job hands-on himself, because he couldn't trust his son, messenger, anybody with Indian people. He came 9 times and he failed. 9 or 10 times we can debate, but we can't debate the failure. So this is a land which has never had a concretized idea of God. Anybody… actually you can make up your own god, this is called Ishta Devata. You don't like any of the existing gods, you can make up your own thing and worship. Because we understand this is only a way of unhindered ability to relate to something. You can make your father into God, you can make your mother into God, you can make your wife or husband into God, or you can make the tree in your garden into God, just about anything. Or you can create your own thing. Because this land gave this freedom because this is a land of seekers. A seeker means the fundamental quality of a seeker is he has realized that he does not know. He understands the immensity of I do not know, because only and only when you see I do not know, the possibility of knowing arises in your life. Whatever you do not know, you believe. We can make you believe just about anything if you work hard enough on you. Everybody should know this. If we work hard enough on you from your childhood, we can make you believe just about anything. This happened. You okay for a joke? It's getting very serious. This happened in New York City. An 8-year-old boy came home from school. He had a very progressive mother. And when she's so progressive, obviously she's single. And he came home and asked, "Mama, is God a man or a woman?" She thought about various political correctness of this, whichever way you say it, what's the problem? She looked at all those possibilities and she said both. Then the boy went into deep thought. After a few minutes he came back and he asked, "Mama, is God white or black?" She again thought about all the racial issues in the country and then she said both. Then he went into very deep thought, then he came back and he asked, "Mama, is God straight or gay?" Again she thought about it a lot and then she said both. Then the boy jumped in joy, I got it, it's Michael Jackson." Right from our childhood, somebody has to work on it. If they work on it, they can make people believe whatever. If you're looking for solace, you believe something, because it'll give you psychological solace. But if you're looking for an ultimate solution with this life, then you have to become a seeker. You have to first admit, I do not know. If you see I do not know, then seeking is a natural consequence of this intelligence. There is no way any human being cannot be a seeker of truth if they are not messed up with all kinds of belief systems. If you leave human intelligence untouched, naturally they will seek. There is no other way. Is it not natural if nobody told you what is the nature of the universe, what it is, where you came from, where you did not, where you will go, if nobody told you anything, is it not natural for your intelligence to think, where did I come from, where do I go, what is the nature of my existence? It is very natural for every human being to be a seeker. It is just that we have spoiled this with all kinds of belief systems. Now, all the fight in the world, people try to represent it as good versus evil. No, it is only about one man's belief versus another man's belief. The moment you believe this is it, you're bound to fight with somebody who believes something else. It is time, because for the first time human intellect is sparking like this, it is time that every human aspect, every problem that a human being has, either within or around himself, is addressed through our intelligence, because this is one thing that has not been propagated in the world. In different parts of the world, people are going about propagating this. God is love, God is compassion, God is this, God is that. See, these are all human qualities. Our center is in rural Tennessee and there's a small little town. And I'm walking in this town and I'm the darkest shade in that town. Anything darker than this won't last, even today, okay? So I'm walking, a huge man comes, stands right up here, 6 inches away from me. He's over 6 feet tall and big. I look up at him like this. He looks down on me and says, "God loves us." I said, "The way you're made, only God can love you." He has to love the mistakes that he's made, that's his problem. See, to be peaceful, to be loving, to be blissful, to be compassionate, these are human qualities. They need not be exported to heaven. Yes or no? Human beings are capable of these things or not? Every human being, if he allows it within himself or herself, every human being is capable of peacefulness, joyfulness, being loving, being kind, being compassionate. For this you don't have to seek it from heaven. Today even the so-called spiritual leaders are going about saying peace is the ultimate goal of life. Peace of mind is the ultimate goal of life. Such people will only rest in peace, believe me. This happened, I was to speak at Tel Aviv. I'm flying in from Atlanta and to land there mid-morning and speak in the evening. But because of delays, I land there at 6 in the evening. 6:30 I'm to speak. So I quickly change in the airport and rush. Because in these 33 years I have not been late to a single appointment in my life. I don't want to change that now, so I rush to the place. And I'm traveling on American Airlines, so obviously there is nothing edible on the plane. And I get there, and to my joy I see the venue is a nice restaurant. That can't get better. So I walk in and people are already coming in and they're greeting me, and one man comes and says, "Shalom." I asked him, "What does it mean?" He said, "This is the highest way of greeting." I said, "That's your opinion. What does it actually mean?" He said, "No, this is the highest way of greeting." "All right, but what does the word mean?" "It means peace." I said, "Why would peace be the highest way of greeting unless you're born in Middle East?" In South India, somebody comes up to me in the morning and says, "Peace." I'll say, "What's wrong with you?" I'm saying whatever you deprive yourself of will rise to heaven. If you've not eaten for 5 days, food means heaven. So, we've been playing with human psyche like this. I'm not against these things because this is a very inexpensive psychiatry. Psychiatrists are too expensive and they take a lot of furniture. This is inexpensive psychiatry, it's fine, but it is time. It is time that human beings have the necessary tools to create well-being within themselves. They don't have to look to an organization or a religious head or a spiritual head or a guru or a god, but human beings have the necessary tools to create their inner well-being. This is very important. This is the need of today, because for the first time, we have become like superhuman beings. What 10,000 men could not do, one man can do today. 1,000 years ago, what 10,000 men could not do, a single man can do it today with the aid of science and technology. When we have such enormous power, it's very important how we move around here. See, if there is an ant, it can go all over the place. If there's an elephant, you'd better walk carefully, isn't it? Because every step causes damage. Right now we have become like this. Our footprint is huge as human beings. Now, how we tread upon this planet, how we tread upon each other is extremely important. If this has to happen, the most important thing is we have to transform humanity from belief systems to this much sincerity within themselves. What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. This much sincerity comes in every human being, that we will not go about talking about things which are not in our experience. Just because it's written somewhere or said by somebody, it doesn't matter who said it. At least we can say, I do not know. Maybe Krishna knew, but I do not know. What's the problem? I'm asking, what's the problem? What is the problem for the human being to come to this basic level of sincerity? What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. Once you see I do not know, the nature of this intelligence is such it cannot keep quiet. It has to seek, it has to know. There is no other way for this. This is something that needs to happen, and this is the significance of this culture, this is the significance of this civilization, this is the only reason why it has lasted. Nobody knew what to hit. When the invaders came, they knew they had to break this society somehow, but they did not know where to hit and what to hit because they did not know where it is. It was not in one leadership because it is just individual seeking, because this is just an expression of human intelligence. Seeking is not a teaching, a seeking is not a philosophy. Seeking is a natural expression of human intelligence, and this is what needs to happen to the world. Thank you very much.